Everyone, welcome to all for e-learning classes session 11, chapter 2, 11th session. Yesterday we discussed transport of CO2. Transport of CO2 is in three forms. Transport of CO2 is in three forms we have discussed. That includes one, the transport by physical solution, physical form, physical solution, and the second one is carbamino compounds, Next, the third one is said to be bicarbonate form, bicarbonates form. So these are the three forms. Since the transport of comparative with that of the O2 and CO2 is of involving more complexities. So here where we see the rewind, that is, we'll see this again. The due reason is it involves the complexities. How? There are the three forms we see. The transport of CO2, one by physical solution, 7% of the transported by means of physical solution, and carbamino compound is 23%, whereas bicarbonates is 70%. By all this, what you come to know is the transport of CO2 majoritively by bicarbonates form, that is 70% of CO2 by bicarbonates. Physical solution, the solubility of the CO2 20-25% more when compared to that of the, so physical solution 7%, carbamino compounds 23%, bicarbonates 70%. So physical solution where the carbon dioxide solubility is 20-25% more in the plasma related to that of the oxygen. So in this connection, the solubility will be more relative to that of the oxygen, and so the water present in the plasma with the CO2 combines with the water and form H2CO3. Whereas the carbamino compounds in the sense the hemoglobin, respiratory pigment hemoglobin with the carbon dioxide form carbamino hemoglobin. A carbamino compound is nothing but carbamino hemoglobin, through which 23% is transported. The hemoglobin is a conjugate protein. So the amine which is present in a protein combines with the carbon dioxide form carbamino hemoglobin. Next, the third form is bicarbonates. 70% of carbon dioxide transported through the bicarbonates form. Generally what we see here is RBC is with a cell. So two forms were completed. One is with the physical solution and another is the carbamino compound. The third is a bicarbonate form. That is, the RBC is with the RBC. RBC is with the potassium hemoglobin. So, carbon dioxide from atmosphere to lungs, when the CO2 enters into, look at here, this is the entry of CO2 into the blood. Entry of CO2 into the blood. Blood includes RBC and plasma. RBC and plasma. The CO2 combines with the RBC We have discussed it here. It is the 7% by physical solution and 23% is with the carbamino compounds, that is the hemoglobin. In RBC, hemoglobin is present. Combination of the carbon dioxide with that of the hemoglobin results in a carbamino compound. Look at here. In RBC, it is the hemoglobin when combines with the carbon dioxide forms carbamino hemoglobin. This is one form, and this is plasma H2O with the CO2, H2CO3, right? In the case of RBC, RBC is with the cell contains cytoplasm, so water combines with the CO2 and forms a H2CO3. Here the carbonic anhydrase enzyme what facilitates carbonic anhydrase is an enzyme play vital role. Carbonic anhydrase enzyme also play role in the influencing the plasma also, which means carbonic anhydrase play a role in the formation of carbonic acid there at the RBC and plasma, but the content of the carbonic anhydrase is less in plasma when compared with the RBC. So carbonic anhydrase what forms the carbonic acid, at the same time it also forms H plus HCO3 minus, which means carbonic anhydrase play a role in formation of the carbonic acid as well as its dissociation. Next, as the bicarbonates are formed in RBC, potassium and hemoglobin both are present. So one form the hemoglobin combines with the carbon dioxide forms the carbamino compound. We have discussed wherever the partial pressure of a gas is more, so its solubility is more, its combining nature. We discussed that hemoglobin is an amphiteric compound. At the tissues, it combines with the carbon dioxide and delivers the O2. In the same manner, at lungs, hemoglobin to which the oxygen combined and liberates the hydrogen ions. So look at here, that is what we are discussing here. So in RBC, which is a cell where water and CO2 combines in presence of carbonic anhydrase and forms the H2CO3 carbonic acid, and it is an unstable, so immediately by carbonic anhydrase it is breaks down into H plus and HCO3 minus. So this results in the formation of potassium bicarbonate and hemoglobin acidic. Look at here. What we are discussing is, in a carbamino compound, the hemoglobin combines with the CO2, CO2 combined with the hemoglobin, and in RBC, the hemoglobin combined with the hydrogen ions. So, at tissues, the more the partial pressure of a gas, whose solubility will be more, which means at tissues the CO2 partial pressure is more. So CO2 combines with the blood and delivers the oxygen. That is what a point we discussed, which is nothing but Bohr effect. Bohr effect in the sense the effect of CO2 and H plus. Look at here. In general, with the blood, in the case of the blood RBC, hemoglobin carries the oxygen. Is it right? So that is taking place up to the tissues. Next, as the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is more at the tissues, the dissociation of oxyhemoglobin takes place. That is the what we discuss at the tissues. Means carbon dioxide combined with the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin uptakes the carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion and unloads the oxygen. That is what? Bohr effect. The effect of CO2 and hydrogen ions on carrying carrying capacity of oxygen is what? Bohr effect. The effect of CO2, look at here. In general, it combines with the oxygen. But at tissues, the CO2 concentration is more. So, the carbon dioxide combined with the hemoglobin and hydrogen ion combined with the hemoglobin and it delivers the oxygen. That's what Bohr effect. Now, in RBC, the potassium bicarbonate and hemoglobin acidic is there. In plasma also, generally its composition is with the sodium chloride. So here the point to see is, this is the RBC and this is the plasma. At tissues, as the carbonic anhydrase concentration is go on increasing, bicarbonate ions what also increases. So since RBC have an affinity towards the anions, since the RBC have the affinity towards the anion, the bicarbonate ions are shifted into the plasma simultaneously in order to maintain the ionic balance or electrical neutrality. The chloride ions shift into RBC. This shifting of bicarbonate ions from RBC into plasma and chloride ions from plasma into RBC is what we say chloride shift. Chloride shift. Is it clear? Chloride shift, in the sense the exchange of anions called bicarbonates from RBC into plasma and chloride ions from the plasma into RBC is what name it to be the chloride shift. So in this form, in plasma, potassium bicarbonates and in the RBC, potassium chloride are what formed? And that reaches the lungs. Look at here. This is what we see at the lungs. So transportation of gases takes place till up to the lungs. That is, at lungs the pulmonary exchange of gases takes place, which means exchange of the carbon dioxide containing the present in the blood into the alveoli of lungs, and at the same time the oxygen present in the lungs into the pulmonary capillaries. That is the pulmonary exchange of gases. In this connection, once the blood reaches into the lungs, pulmonary gases exchange takes place. Now at lungs the partial pressure of oxygen is more. The partial pressure of oxygen at the lungs is 104. So immediately the oxygen combines with the hemoglobin and forms oxyhemoglobin. Is it right? Oxyhemoglobin is formed. Why? As the partial pressure of oxygen is more, so combining of oxygen with the hemoglobin will also be more. So oxyhemoglobin takes place. Already the hemoglobin is with the carbon dioxide as well as hydrogen ions. Look at here. Hemoglobin at tissues uptakes the hydrogen ion and carbon dioxide. Now, as the oxygen combined with the hemoglobin, what are liberated out? That is none other than carbon dioxide and hydrogen ions are liberated out. Carbon dioxide as it is sent out, and this released hydrogen ion combined with the HCO3 minus. So this is with the carbamino compound, CO2 is sent out. The remaining is a bicarbonate form. Bicarbonate ions combine with the H plus and forms H2CO3. And this H2CO3 further break down into H2O and CO2. So carbon dioxide is sent outside. This is what the effect of oxygen unloading the CO2, removal of CO2, which is what we refer as Haldane's effect. Haldane's effect. I repeat, Bohr effect earlier we have seen, effect of CO2 and H plus on the dissociation of oxygen from hemoglobin, or carrying capacity of oxygen is influenced by CO2 and H plus. Whereas here, the effect of O2 on removal of unloading of the carbon dioxide. So at tissues, what you see is the carbon dioxide and the hydrogen ions are taken up by hemoglobin. This is one reference where carbon dioxide combined with the hemoglobin. This is the second reference where the hydrogen ion combined with the hemoglobin. So at the tissues, it unloads the oxygen and binds with the carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion. At lungs, it hemoglobin combined with the oxygen and liberates the CO2. This is what we see. What we are observing here, it's a reversible reaction. So oxygenation, formation of oxyhemoglobin is oxygenation. This oxygenation is a equation terms, you can see this is a reversible reaction. Reversible reaction. Oxygen combined with the hemoglobin at lungs and forms the oxyhemoglobin in the blood. The same thing after reaching the tissues, the oxygen is unloaded and oxygen is supplied to the tissues. This is what a reversible reaction. In the same way, the chloride ions of the plasma shifted into the RBC, bicarbonate ions are shifted into the plasma. So in that form, once it reaches the lungs, as the oxygen combined with the hemoglobin, the hydrogen ions are what released. Hemoglobin acidic was there till up to the lungs, but as the oxygen combines with the hemoglobin, forms the oxyhemoglobin, leaving the hydrogen ions. This hydrogen ion combined with the bicarbonates and form the carbonic acid H2CO3, which is furtherly break down into H2O and CO2. CO2 is sent out. This is what the exchange, how taking place through the blood, from outside environment into the tissues and from tissues to the outside. This is what we see the respiration and the transport of gases. This is all what the transport of gases. So, Bohr effect maintains the transport of O2 to the tissues. The Bohr effect, what do you mean by that? The unloading of the oxygen from the hemoglobin to the tissues. In the same manner, Haldane effect, what promotes the sending out CO2 to the outside. This is the entire the equation and the summary of how the transport of CO2 takes place. Now, so these two effects are Haldane effect and the Bohr effect are much having influence on the transport of the O2 and CO2, that is sending out the carbon dioxide and providing oxygen to the tissues. The point to remember, Bohr effect in which the effect of CO2 and H plus on the oxygen binding with the hemoglobin, where the sigmoid curve shifted towards the right side. That is, If the sigmoid curve we have seen, if shifted to the right side, indicates where the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide is more, partial pressure of oxygen is low, hydrogen ion concentration more, and temperature is more. Whereas the Bohr effect, if shifted towards the left side, means oxygen combining with the hemoglobin. So partial pressure of oxygen is more, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low, temperature is low, and the pH is normal, that is pH is high. Regulation activity. So far we have seen how the transport of gas is taking place. Now we see the regulation activity of respiration. Respiration in the sense the exchange of gases, nothing but intake of oxygenated air inside and sending out carbon dioxide. We have discussed the respiration, the respiratory system as a calorie burner and the energy provider. That is, the oxidation of food substance takes place and liberates the energy. So in this connection, regulation activity of respiration, we have discussed that the spirometer is a device which is used for the finding out the respiratory beats. The respiratory beat are about 12 to 16 times per a minute. The regulation activity, under that how this respiration is regulated, inspiration and expiration, is what the topic now will discuss. So respiration per a minute, the respiratory rates are 12 to 16 times. That is both inspiration and expiration, what we together say. And generally the inspiration takes about 2 seconds. Make a note, this is very very important. And expiration lasts for 3 seconds for about in the sense it may be slightly changed. So the inspiration water lasts for about the 2 seconds of the time. Inspiration lasts for about 2 seconds. Expiration lasts about, or its duration time is 3 seconds. So inspiration, expiration water, 1 beat, is it right? 1 beat. So how many number of the beats are taking place per a minute? A minute will have 60 seconds. So 3 plus 2 become 5. For example, so 5 seconds per 1 beat into 12 times. So how many it comes to? 60 seconds or not? Is this evident or not? Yes. And if it is taken into 15 number of the beats, so naturally it comes under 4 seconds. That is inspiration may be for 2 seconds and expiration may be for 2 seconds. So if it is lasts for 4 seconds into 15 times 60 seconds, that is per minute there are 12 to 16 number. This is how we see the number of respiratory beats or rate per a minute, which is ranged from 12 to 16. For suppose if it is 16, so it will be further reduced. That is, for suppose 3.5 into 16, for suppose. Likewise we calculate. So it varies, right? So that's what the 12 to 15 or 16 times it takes place, and this is what vary. So at an optimum rate, we say the inspiration lasts for 2 seconds and expiration lasts for 3 seconds. This is what we observe. Whereas the case with the children, infants, it is 44 beats per minute. 44 beats per minute. So now we'll go for the respiration, which controlled in what way? Respiration is regulated by both neural and the chemical control. Neural as well as chemical control activity takes place in the case of the respiration. Respiration is regulated by means of neural activity, that is neural control, as well as the chemical activity, which is one more, which means there are two centers, one neural center and another is what we say it is a chemosensitive area. Basically, the neural center are nothing but related to the brain. So, in brain, there are two centers, one medulla oblongata and another is the medulla oblongata, and another is what name it to be the pons. That is the stimulation by neurons what regulate the respiration, which is what name it to be the neural activity. The respiration regulation activity of respiration involve both neural action and chemical action, which means the stimulation by neurons what also give the signal to the afferent and efferent neurons. If we see afferent in the sense sensory, so here the afferent neurons what takes the signal of the stimulation from a part of the body and give the signal to the brain. From brain the signals reaches into the either the phrenic muscles associated with the diaphragm or else to that of the intercostal muscles. Why? We have already discussed that the phrenic muscles and the intercostal muscles are playing vital role in respiration. In the beginning we have seen, recall your memory, inhalation and exhalation is regulated by means of respiratory rhythmic center which is present close to the medulla oblongata, respiratory rhythmic center. Respiratory rhythmic center is responsible for the control of the inhalation, regulation of inhalation and exhalation. Respiratory rhythmic center present close to the medulla oblongata give necessary signal to the both the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm muscles. This necessary signals causes the sending out carbon dioxide to the outside, or else inspiration and expiration activity is being regulated. The same way pons is with the pneumotoxic center, pneumotoxic center. One is respiratory rhythmic center, and another is said to be the pneumotoxic center. So, respiratory rhythmic center, pneumotoxic center. Pneumotoxic center present close to the pons. Pneumotoxic center is responsible for decreasing the duration of inspiration, and the rate and depth of the breathing is regulated by the pneumotoxic center. Whereas the medulla oblongata, which is nearer to that respiratory rhythmic center. Rhythm means that is at a regular times taking place, means inhalation and exhalation are regulated by the balanced homeostasis of the inspiration and exhalation or expiration is done by means of respiratory rhythmic center. This is what the neural activity. Whereas the another one is named to be the chemical activity. Chemosensitive area, chemosensitive area, chemosensitive area, and another is named to be the arches, that is sensory receptors are associated with the two arches. One is named to be the carotid artery and another is the aortic arch. The carotid artery and aortic arches are what have the receptors which detect the presence of the CO2 and H+. They are chemicals, that's what it is, chemosensitive area. So these are the two, neural activity and the chemical activity. Both the nerves and the chemicals, what the controls the respiration. How we'll see now.